It's a myth where like loyalty to the crown is rebranded as a step forward towards freedom. And it's not just bad history, it's colonial myth turned into modern day propaganda. And it launders imperialism through national pride, through the sacrifice of the veterans. The thing about Vimy Ridge, I always find that so fascinating. How there's like this national pride in fucking Vimy Ridge. When King Charles talked about Vimy Ridge during the throne speech, again, not an accident. Vimy Ridge is the perfect myth for constitutional monarchy trying to reassert its relevance, right? Like it wraps colonial obedience in the language of national pride. And it's important to understand that like Vimy Ridge is not the moment that Canada became a nation. It's the moment that Canadians bled for an empire that still was expected to kneel. Like the idea that Vimy somehow formed some independent Canadian triumph is just pure fiction. The Canadian Corps fought under the British command. General Julian Byng, who was a Brit, is the one who called the shots. The attack itself was part of a larger battle, the Battle of Arras, which was coordinated with French forces, and a British division fought right alongside the Canadians. And so this wasn't Canada going for it alone. It was a British imperial operation from top to bottom. And so the only reason that it's considered to be like a Canadian thing is because so many people, so many Canadians died. And that's why Vimy has been elevated to like sacred national mythology, because Canada needed a story decades after the war. And as the country looked to craft a separate identity from Britain without actually breaking from the monarchy, Vimy was retrofitted into a founding myth of the Canadian spirit. It told Canadians, you earned your nationalhood by dying obediently under British orders, and you didn't win independence. You were awarded a pat on the head for good service or for the death of your family member in a needless military operation. And that's what makes it a colonial myth. It recasts imperial bloodletting as self-determination. It turns a chapter of subordination into a symbol of sovereignty. It hides the truth that Canada fought, and that was not as equal to, but as a dominion, a subordinate state in the British Empire, with no independent foreign policy and no real say in the direction of the war. This is what King Charles is praising when he praises like Canada's spirit and Canada's willingness to sacrifice itself for the greater good, which is the crown. It's not for actual independence. It's for the illusion of it. It's a myth where like loyalty to the crown is rebranded as a step forward towards freedom. And it's not just bad history. It's colonial myth turned into modern day propaganda. And it launders imperialism through national pride, through the sacrifice of the veterans. It tells us that we owe our identity to the same institutions that denied us full autonomy for decades upon decades. And that's why the Vimy narrative still gets repeated in ceremonies like this, because it lets Canada pretend to have outgrown colonialism without having to confront it. It flattens the nuance of like what Canada is. And it also it reputation washes both the monarch and the politicians who keep him on the throne by being a part of this ritual. And the truth to things like this is that Canada does not owe its identity to things like Vimy Ridge. Vimy was not where Canada was birthed. It was where it was baptized in imperial blood. And if we want to be honest about who we are and who we're still bowing to, we need to stop mistaking loyalty for liberation, because that's not what this is. This is like a subjugation to the crown, which is just fundamentally not something that quote unquote progressives should be okay with. It's just absurd that we're even here right now. But yeah, that's Canada. That's Canada.